Welcome to Vacation Station, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio's Travel Writers Panel discussion with the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association. We call them IFWTWA. It's easier with such a big name, but they do welcome travel writers, photographers, food wine writers, obviously as well, and destinations to be part of an awesome organization. You can learn more if you go to IFWTWA.org. We love these panel discussions because we get to chat with travel writers who have been all over. And today we're going to go from what I'm reading. Wow, we're going to go from coastal Mississippi to Portugal. We're going to go to Alabama, Oregon, you name it. And we've got two special guests joining us. Lisa Evans, who's been on our show a couple times. She's a freelance travel writer, a photographer, and author of the book, 100 Things to Do in Coastal Mississippi Before You Die. It is out now through Reedy Press, and you can go to her website, writerlisa.com. So welcome back, Lisa. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I want everyone to know that all the links that I'm giving out on the show are all in the show notes. So no matter if you're watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple, or wherever you're listening and catching the podcast, it's all there. Our next guest is Jan Schroder. She is the editor-in-chief of the Travel 100 website. So you can go to the Travel 100, the number 100.com, and also newsletter. And she's also a writer. She's been in all kinds of publications, magazines, you name it. So welcome to the show, Jan. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Hey, this is exciting. So you're based in Atlanta, and Lisa is on the coast right now. So are we all wanting to go visit Lisa right now in the summertime?
Absolutely.
It's very warm. It is very warm.
Jan, tell us a little bit about your writing background and how you got started in becoming a journalist, a travel journalist.
Sure. Well, I was working for community newspapers in Atlanta, and I really didn't know anything about travel writing. And I got a letter in the mail. Remember those? It was actually a piece of paper in the mail.
With a stamp?
Inviting me to go to Turks and Caicos. I'm like, what is this? Why is someone inviting me to go to Turks and Caicos? And I really didn't know what that was about. And so anyway, that was my first press trip. And I did a little bit more, not much travel writing when I worked for the newspapers. But then a new magazine started in Atlanta called Travel Girl. And I went to work for them, and I was managing editor there for about 14 years. So I kind of came about the travel writing accidentally. But of course, it's become quite the passion of mine, and I love it.
And so now you run this website, a newsletter that goes over 300,000 people get it. So you're working it and traveling. And do you have a focus on your travels, a main focus?
Not so much. I'm kind of general. I love to write about restaurants, things to do, soft adventure, spa, that kind of thing. So no particular focus. I've done domestic, and I've been lucky enough to do a lot of international travel as well.
Like Portugal, which is where we're going to be talking about with you today, coastal Portugal. And then Lisa ended up moving to Mississippi. She fell in love with it and then decided, okay, I'm going to start writing, and then end up writing a book. So were you writing when you were back east as well?
Not, I didn't really write anything. You know, you always have that latent where you think, oh, what would I like to do? And I guess writing was one of them. But you know, I had my family, my kids, and all that, raised that. And of course, every mom knows you have no time to do anything until after your kids are grown and out of the house. So at that point, you know, that was kind of my it was kind of my empty nest thing. And I got into it and took a few courses, and obviously they tell you do what you like, and I love to go new places and see new things. So that's I kind of came about it accidentally, so to speak, as well. Just kind of fell into it and found, hey, this is pretty cool. I like this. So that's how I ended up with it. And then, you know, a couple of years before the pandemic, and then of course the pandemic hit, and then it was write about your local. So that's how I really got into delving into coastal Mississippi, because it's where I live, and you know, that's pretty much only where you could go. So that's how the book came to be, kind of all the research for the book. So
awesome.
I'm still here. I like to go other places, you know, do other things too. But you know, I always love to talk about coastal Mississippi as well.
And you've written the book, so it's over 100 things to do in coastal Mississippi. But
Correct.
I know you've got a love for music and history, so you can't really beat that with coastal Mississippi, right? You've got plenty of that going on.
That and outdoors. I mean, I love to do all kinds of things outdoors. So that's all three things: music, history, and outdoors. We got it all right here.
Nature. Awesome, awesome. Jen, for you, in regards to travel, let's start with Portugal. What was it that made you say, okay, I'm going to talk about this as a destination for coastal beach lovers and coastal as a coastal destination?
I was lucky enough to spend 6 weeks in Portugal last year, and I just really fell in love with that country. We spent a month on the Algarve, which is the southern coast of Portugal, in a place called Lagos. And it's just stunningly beautiful. I've never seen giant cliffs rising up from the beach, and you could go kayak into these grottos. It was just so beautiful, and you could hike along the top of them. And you had to be careful not to fall off cliffs. It's a very easy thing to fall off a cliff in Portugal. It was just so beautiful. Then we spent 4 days in a place called Cascais, right outside of Lisbon.
See how I let you do the pronouncing of this?
Well,
you're doing all the
I'm not
pronunciations.
sure I've got it right. I said I'd talk about this. I was like, oh, wait, I'm still not sure I'm saying it right, but I think I'm close.
Yeah.
And it's about 15 minutes outside of Lisbon. And it's just a beautiful destination. They call it the Beverly Hills of Portugal, which makes it sound a little fancier than I thought it was. It used to be a fishing village, but now it's gotten to be very sophisticated. But it's a pretty beach, wonderful seafood, and close by you can go hiking and do different things like that. So yeah, I love those destinations partially because they are so different from what I grew up with, which was beaches on the East Coast.
There's something about that rugged coast that I love too. Like behind me, that is right above Trinidad, California, on the right through the redwoods. And to me, when you have that kind of diversity, like just to go through the redwoods and drive, there's this place called Gold's Bluff Beach, and it's near a town of Oric in the redwoods. And here you are amongst the coastal redwoods, these giant, just beautiful trees. And you can drive through on this dirt road, winds through this forest with all these ferns. And then next thing you know, you're at this beach and there's elk walking down the beach, eating blackberries, wild blackberries. And you're like, I don't want to go home. And I don't think we didn't go home that night because we were just so like, we just want to stay here now. I mean, that's why I think it's so important to talk about the coast being so diverse and in destinations, not knocking the, typical Southern California kind of coast. It's really, there's just all kinds of places like that. I mean, if you want that nature experience and, elk on the beach, it's pretty darn cool. So yeah, and that ruggedness, that ruggedness. I know that's something that probably drew you to Oregon too. You have a great story, and everyone, again, in the show notes, we'll link to the travel writers here, Lisa and Jan's stories on some of the coastal destinations as well. But Jan, you have a thing about Oregon too, with that rugged coast.
Yeah, I was just astonished when I went there because we don't have rocks on the beach like you have in that beautiful photo behind you, and these giant rock formations. And it kind of had a very different feel to it. Of course, I was in there in the fall. It wasn't the bright, sunny, white sand beaches. They had a little mystery to them. And I just thought they were just beautiful. And we had cool nights. So we had a bonfire on the beach. I mean, that's not unheard of on the East Coast, but it's a little more rare. But to wear a sweater on a beach is kind of a new thing for me. But I fell in love with the coast of Oregon. I just thought it was beautiful.
I agree with you. I visited the coast. I went to, trying to think how many years ago, it was several years ago. I went to Portland, and my friend took me along the beach. And it was stunning, as you said, the cliffs and the ruggedness. And I mean, I also wore a sweater, and it was in the summertime. So it was just absolutely gorgeous. I remember sitting in like on top looking down at the water, and it was just so peaceful. I don't know, not peaceful, but it was just wonderful. I could have sat there for hours.
There's a lot of parks on the beach out there too. and you can just go sit at a little picnic bench, have a picnic, and just watch the waves literally crashing in, like they're crashing in. And then all the driftwood, that's what's cool
Yes.
too. The driftwood is just like, no way, this is cool, I'd like to do like do like the whole coastline, Pacific coastline, just get in the
agree.
car and go,
I agree. That would be beautiful.
yeah, all the way from like, the islands up in Washington State, like maybe start in Vancouver and then go down the Baja Peninsula, and then maybe just keep going up and around. I don't know. Maybe we just need to drive the entire, perimeter of the continent. Sounds like a plan to me.
I mean, you'd have all different kinds of beaches from on the Pacific down. You would experience all kinds.
Yeah, and on the East Coast, where did you used to go, Lisa, on the East Coast?
Honestly, nowhere. I mean, I lived in central New York, so I was near a lot of lakes, not necessarily like the ocean. The Finger Lakes and all the lakes in central New York, even the Great Lakes out on the western front, but there was really no beaches unless you went to New York City or Long Island or one of those, but
Or the
so it was
Hamptons.
basically lakes rather
Okay.
than ocean beaches.
Okay. Yeah, and then when it comes to just outside, Atlanta for you, Jan, do you mostly go to Florida or like Georgia? You've got Tybee Island out there by Savannah and the
Yeah, but,
islands.
I mean, we are very landlocked here. Beaches are either Georgia or Florida or 5 hours away. So that's a kind of a drawback to this city. But growing up, we always went to Florida. I mean, that's our summer vacation was going to Florida with the occasional Hilton Head in South Carolina. And then also Charleston. It's weird. All these beaches are like 5 hours away. But typically we'd go to Florida.
Yeah, like Pensacola and that area. That's the white sandy beaches,
I
yeah.
think those are some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. If you, I mean, that lovely white sand, powdery beach. I just think they're gorgeous.
And there's forest, which people don't expect. That's the thing about Florida. I mean, you could go down to like Miami area, and then next thing you know, you're out hanging out with alligators and crocodiles in the Everglades, and or you could go like a little, go west and you can start snorkeling and like Biscayne and stuff. So that's pretty much an underwater park more than anything, but it's pretty diverse, that state. And then getting up to Pensacola, those, the Gulf Shores, and that's something you wanted to talk about, Jan, is the Gulf Shores, but on the Alabama side.
Yeah, well, I never grew up going to Alabama. Like I said, it's just all Florida. So, I mean, I knew nothing about Alabama beaches. And I went to Gulf Shores and I fell in love with it too. You've got that beautiful beach, but one thing we really loved about it, and I took my husband for the first time, he'd never been, about 3 years ago we went, there's so much more to do. Because I love the beach, but as I've gotten older, I don't want to spend a week just lying in the sun frying my face. I'd rather do something more active. I mean, I still love to walk on the beach and sit on the beach, of course, reading a book. There's nothing better, but we like to do other things. And that's one thing I loved about Gulf Shores. They've got a great state park where you can ride bikes. You can go kayaking. There's a really pretty wildlife refuge that looks like Florida and Alabama probably looked before they were developed. They've got an art center. And of course you could spend all day. Well, my husband would do this. You don't spend all day eating oysters, which isn't my thing, but there's also great seafood, and you can do, the typical beach stuff, the sunset tours. And they've got this great bar called Floribama. And it's right on the state line between Florida and Alabama. And it is an institution.
Bushwhackers.
It used to be kind of small. Have you been?
Oh,
I think she froze a little bit.
Yep, there we go. You froze a little bit.
Sorry, I said bushwhackers and everything stopped.
Well,
it's cocktail time.
There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. They're very tasty, but boy, are they potent.
I had no clue. I can't remember.
Exactly.
That place is a scene. I mean, all the different rooms and then every year they have a mullet toss contest where you throw
No
a fish
way.
on the beach.
Yes, they
Oh.
do.
Sunday mornings, you can go to church there. You can go get your Bloody Mary and go to church.
Wow. No way. I thought mullet. I was thinking like the hairdo because I'm starting to see more people with mullets
No.
lately. And I'm going, no, that is, you can bring bell bottoms back, but
No.
not the mullet. Please don't bring the mullet back. But apparently
Please,
it's coming
no.
back. No, no, just give me a bushwhacker and all is fine.
Yes,
but that,
you're-
but she's in your neighborhood with this, right? You know, that's not far from you, is it,
no, Gulf
Lisa?
Shores as we call it, just down the road, kind of, sorta. And all the beach destinations that are headed from Mississippi toward Florida, they're all beautiful. You've got Destin, you've got Gulf Shores, you got Pensacola, you got Panama Beach. I mean, they're all and you know, we tend to here refer to the Alabama as Floribama. That's where, and Floribama is not just the bar that she spoke of. It's kind of like that strip of land. Kind of, it's, you know, right where the boundary is. So yeah, I think I can be in Pensacola in maybe 3 to 4 hours.
Right.
It's not really that far. It might be even less than that. Might only be like 2.5 to 3, but it's just, the whites, it's beautiful. It's absolutely a gorgeous area.
Now, do you get bushwhackers in coastal Mississippi?
Oh, absolutely, we
And
do.
just this is important
depending,
now.
and depending upon where you are, like I said, I remember obviously in New York it wasn't a big thing, but I came down here and summer and everybody's like, oh, have one. I'm like, okay, cool, and they're very tasty. You don't take, I mean, they don't taste like what you're drinking until about the second one, and then you go to stand up. It's like, whoa, what am I drinking? But they're very tasty. They are very.
So
very
you're talking about oysters, Jen. Let's talk about some food in Mississippi, because this is the other thing is seafood is, you know, top of the menu wherever you're going on the coast. So
seafood's king here. Basically, I think I forget the exact number, but I want to say like close to 80 or 90% of the domestic shrimp comes from our area. I mean, basically shrimping, Biloxi mostly was built pretty much on the shipping industry. You know, shipping and fishing, and that's still to this day, you have families that have generations and generations, and that's all they've done is fish for shrimp. And of course the big fish, we have the big charter boats that go out deep sea fishing beyond the barrier islands. So you can get in the Mississippi Sound, which is basically what's close to us. And then when you go further out, the big yachts, it's a huge industry for deep sea fishing trips. It's, you know, you can do that charter boat trips, anything on the water that you can think of, you can find here, because basically we have 62 miles of coastline and 26 miles of beach. So it's, you know, and it's the largest, I believe it's the largest man-made beach in the US. And then our whole coastline is basically from the state line of Louisiana to the state line of Alabama, 62 miles, and it's nothing but coast. And, you know, just dotted with, you know, all these different communities that all have their own vibe and their own feeling and their own, you know, obviously Biloxi Gulfport's the two largest, but then there's all these other smaller cities, and each one of them has a different personality. It's really cool.
And casinos on the water.
Yes, and casinos. I believe we have 12 at last count, 11 of them being resorts. We have one that's kind of just a local, and it's like a standard. It's been here forever since they, you know, to build casinos, but it's always been a local. It's where the locals go. And then the rest of them are all the big resorts. After Katrina, they modified it. It used to be that the casino floors, you know, the part of the casino had to be over water. That was just the laws. Well, Katrina kind of changed all that. And now, as long as the casino floor does not have to be over the water, but you have to have, it has to be like grandfathered in from prior to Katrina. And you also have to do new development. So you have to have like a golf course or something that is not just gaming. You have to give something else back that people can do. I've seen in the last few years numerous things that for kids. I remember one of the first times I visited here when I still lived in the Northeast it was basically like an adult playground. There was very little for kids to do. Now it's like we have so much stuff for kids to do. It's changed gradually through the years. So it's much more kid friendly. And we have a lot of things going for kids now. So it's not just for adults anymore. It's for the whole family.
I think that's changed in a lot of places. Even Vegas has gone more kid friendly and family friendly than, hit the Wheel of Fortune. I wouldn't mind the Wheel of Fortune, like
No, me
hitting
either,
that, I wouldn't mind that at all. Jan, when we're talking about food and seafood, what was it like in Portugal? Since that's all I can pronounce of what you were talking in Portugal. What was the food like?
Again, lots of seafood. We found this place in Lagos. It was all you can eat grilled seafood. It was kind of not a fancy place. My husband was so happy. He had like tears coming out of his eye. It was so funny. And we went back 3 times. We ended up doing a video where we mentioned it. And the last night we went in and the owner saw us and he comped our meal, which was very nice. But yeah, seafood was very prevalent, although they don't really eat oysters, which is weird because they have them there, but I guess it's just a cultural thing. But yes, because of the sea, they do eat a lot of seafood. That was primarily more so than any other meats. We would have a lot of seafood.
And there's nothing wrong with seafood. It's good for you. And and depending upon your taste, and sometimes those places that you mentioned are the best ones, the little hole in the walls, where the locals go. They always tell you, go where the locals go. And that sounds exactly what that place is like.
Yeah.
It was so funny. Growing up, we'd go to the beach every year and I didn't like seafood at all. And I always ordered fried chicken and it took forever to take. And, I didn't know what I was missing out on. And now it's pretty much what I eat when I go out. I love it in just about every form. So we can get fresh seafood, obviously, the way they can ship things so quickly. We can get in Atlanta, but there's nothing like sitting down on a plate of shrimp where you've got a view of the ocean.
Well, we can go right to the docks and get it right from the boats. I mean, when the fishermen come in, you have to be there early because of course all the restaurants are doing the same thing. So if you have a contact or a friend of a friend of a friend that's a fisherman and you are at the dock 6-7 o'clock in the morning, you can get like big, nice shrimp for dirt cheap. And you get as much as you want and you can process them and freeze them. I mean, it's always great because you can get them and you can freeze them right away. And then in the middle of winter, when shrimp is not readily available, you go to your freezer, pop one out, and it's, just like it was 3 months ago.
Oh, so with being able to go right to the fishermen and getting all, so much fish and I have no clue about seafood. I'm allergic to it. So I have no clue, but I'm glad you guys, our audience likes it, and it doesn't mean I don't like it. It's just, I don't want to, blow up and go to the hospital. But when you have that much seafood prevalent and you could get it like that right from the dock, do you guys make gumbos and jambalayas just like they do in Louisiana? Since you're so close, I would say that culture kind of will cross the line.
Yes, very much so. I mean, there's obviously different varieties of gumbo. Seafood gumbo is obviously the most prevalent, but there's also the andouille sausage and things like that. But yeah, I've attempted. I mean, I'm a damn Yankee, but I've attempted gumbo a couple of times and came out pretty good. Obviously, there are restaurants here on the coast that absolutely specialize, and where to go to get the best gumbo. Jambalaya, I haven't ever tried that one, and it's not high on my big favorite list. I'd much rather have gumbo. Jambalaya is just, I don't know, it's good. I mean, I've had it, I've eaten it, but it's not something that I would make. But there's just so much seafood, and we have high-end seafood places that as a must for anybody that comes to visit. I'm like, yeah, you got to go to XYZ restaurant for seafood. But then there's a lot of the little hole in the walls, kind of the local places that, I mean, and crawfish is huge here during crawfish season. Crawfish is huge. I mean, everybody and their brother, and you go and people just like knock off crawfish like it's nobody's business.
It's kind of like, even I love the South. I think the hospitality is second to none. And until they go, aren't you special? Then I'm like, uh-oh, isn't she special? Run, you did something. What did you say or do? But the hospitality has always been amazing, and the food. We have our friends in Peachtree City. Jan, you'll appreciate this. We were there on a Sunday, and they're like, "Get in the car. You're going to go eat Southern food for Sunday. That's what we do." And so we get there, and we kept getting yelled at, and we can eat, but apparently we're supposed to pile our plates. There's like and it was like a buffet style, and we were out in there's that area where they do the filming of The Walking Dead and all of that. I want to say Sonora. Yeah, we were out in that area, and we were taking these scenic drives. It was beautiful, right? And our friends, he's like, "Come on, you got to eat all this. No, go back. You need to go back." And I'm like, "But we just ate this. You need to go back." And there was like fried this and okra and mac and cheese, and we're like, "We haven't had that much mac and cheese before. Let's dig in." Biscuits and cornbread, and I mean, it was like the Sunday, and then we go for more of a Sunday drive, and I was like, "Man, who takes time out to relax and actually do a Sunday drive and a meal?" And it was all family, you know. And so then we went to Sonoya, say it again?
Yeah,
Son
that's
Sonoya,
right.
and it was such a beautiful, charming downtown. And then the sun was shining, and he's like, "We gotta go have ice cream." And we're looking at him like, his wife is off shopping, like, he's like, "Uh-oh." Well, if she's, you know, because she's dangerous that way. She's awesome. I love her. And we go in to get ice cream. He's like, "Girls." I'm like, "We can't eat anymore." He goes, "This is what sunny Sundays are about. They were made for ice cream, and it's stuck with us forever." And it was really real true ice cream. And I think that's something about the beach too, is like you go to the beach and you find, I don't know, just the old school things when we were kids. Like you want to walk down the boardwalk and have that ice cream, and it doesn't have to be the big fancy chain thing. You know what I mean? You want the hole in the wall kind of place, like you were saying, Lisa, that you know, the mom and pop who's actually
Correct.
doing the ice cream scoop for you, you know? I don't know. Jan, what do you think about ice cream on the beach?
That made me think of a place in Gulf Shores, and now I think it's gotten franchised. And there's one in Atlanta, but this young girl started a place in Gulf Shores called The Yard, and they sell milkshakes. I'd never seen milkshakes like this before. They were like in a mason jar with the handle, but then on top, you might have like a whole piece of cheesecake and a bunch of sprinkles, or you might have a whole cupcake.
Dude,
It's like a big dessert on top of the milkshake, and they're
uh-oh.
beautiful and decadent and so dangerous, but they're really fun.
So if you're
Ooh,
counting
I love
calories,
ice
if you're counting calories, that's not the place to go.
Well, then you can go for a
No,
walk on the beach. And
you'd have to
if you're
go for a
brave, you
long
could.
walk for one of these milkshakes.
Well, I'm not
You'd have to walk
jogging.
the coast of Mississippi.
No, really, that's it. That's it. But that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yes.
And it's an art piece. That's how they should do Bloody Marys, you know, the big Bloody Mary with the bacon. Come on,
Mhm.
like we want the bacon, the jalapeno, the celery, you
The
know, your food
asparagus. You
groups.
had one
Oh yeah.
with asparagus stock?
And
Or
pickles.
shrimp.
Mm,
I've had
oh,
it
there
with
you go.
shrimp on it too.
It's a whole
Like a
meal and a
meal.
Bloody Mary.
Well, this
Yes.
just turned into a food show, didn't it?
Well,
Well, there's something
you
about
can't talk about travel without talking about food, right?
it's a
That's
huge
right.
part of it. It's about taste of place. And lodging wise, I know that so many people are doing vacation rentals now, and some of that is a good thing, and some of it not so much. But I think it's cool when you can, and some hotels actually have little kitchenettes. You taste something and you can try and make it there while you're there, which is kind of a fun thing to do if you like to cook. But let's talk about lodgings. Jan, you did that wonderful piece about the lodging down the Oregon coast that you did for Orbit's travel. And I think the lodgings Oregon has, like it, I mean, when you can see the sunset, you know, with a glass of wine on a balcony, like, come on, who doesn't want to do that? I want to do that
Yes.
from your own room, like, and hear the ocean. I want to hear the ocean
Mhm.
from my room. That's my thing.
Well, you were talking about driving down the coast. To me, a dream would be to drive down the coast and stay in these charming inns just all along the way. I mean, we stayed in the Stephanie Inn on the Oregon coast, and it was so wonderful. It was on the beach, and that's where we had a bonfire there. But then at night they had, they had a nice wine and cheese reception, and they had a room that was, I think, octagonal with windows looking out on the ocean.
Oh, wow.
And it was so beautiful. And yeah,
Oh,
you step out the door and your feet are in the sand. So
mm,
yeah, but, I love unique accommodations on the beach. Or it
mhm.
doesn't always have to be that unique. I mean, in Gulf Shores, they don't have a lot of hotels in Gulf Shores. It's mostly condo buildings. But we had a beautiful, like 3-bedroom condo with a balcony overlooking the water. Because I do like to have a kitchen if I'm staying somewhere for a week. I'm
Mm.
I'm not going to cook a fancy meal at night, but I don't like to go out for breakfast or, I like to be able to eat in there. I don't want to get dressed that early. I'm
So
kind of
that,
lazy.
but you know what? I am so with you on that.
I
We travel
agree.
full time, and it would be like, no, the hotel serves breakfast from A to B, and I'm like, dude, half of the time I'm up around 4 or 5 in the morning working, and I'm in my pajamas, and I do want my second and third cup. I don't want to have to be dressed and then go down and battle over breakfast. Like when that's my business time, and then after I'm done, like I don't know. No, I'm with you. I want to be in my cozy space, and I'm far nicer a person. Like if I'm not dealing with people early in the morning without coffee, and to be able to just have that I don't know, that vacation feel too, where you don't have to be rushed. You shouldn't be doing business when you're on the beach.
A lot
Sometimes
of
you have
people
to.
do though.
Yeah,
I've got to
sometimes you
have
have
that
to.
coffee first thing in the morning.
Mm, yeah, I agree. But yeah, that's nice to have a condo and have a kitchen and do your own pace. I mean, make a picnic for the beach, and buy things that are local. Like that gives you the opportunity to buy local bread, go to a farmer's market. I know we talk about farmers markets all the time on the show. And people are like, well, you don't do that if you travel. I'm like, I want the local cheese. I want to see what it's like to live there. And, so to me, I think if you can do the local markets and get the local ingredients and make something while you're there, it's cool. So do you have farmers markets in Mississippi, coastal
We do.
Mississippi?
We do
Cool.
generally, actually a lot of times, both Biloxi and Gulfport, those are the two big cities. They each have one on differing days. So they do have farmers markets, and a lot of them, and actually the funny story, someone just told me they have water, like a lot of what happens is obviously north of I-10 is a lot of farmland. Mississippi has a lot of open farmland, especially up through the Delta, whatever. So watermelons is the thing right now. And you have these people that load up their truck and they come down for a weekend and they basically sell watermelons or whatever they have out of their truck. Doesn't even necessarily have to be at a farmer's market. And I believe, somebody just said to me that they purchased a watermelon from one of the counties up in North Mississippi, and they said it was the sweetest that they've ever had, and they hope the guy stuck around. But they'll be down. You'll see them all along, especially on Highway 90, which is our scenic beach road. And
Mm-hmm.
on whenever there's an open corner, you might see a pickup. They might have corn on the cob, peaches,
Ooh.
watermelons, peas, whatever they happen to grow. They'll bring it down and they'll sell it. And when it's gone, it's gone.
Mm. See the peaches. That's what Jan gets to have the
Yes. Oh,
peaches.
but I heard the
Not
peach
this
crop took a
year.
beating. I was gonna say the peach
Oh my
crop took a
gosh.
beating.
Our peach
Oh,
was like 90% decimated.
Yeah, I read that.
I'm so
We had
sorry.
I think it was a late freeze that did it. Yeah. But I will say this, South Carolina has some great peaches. So I might have to eat some peaches from South Carolina this year.
Oh, listen, I love South Carolina. That whole coast. I'm in love with both your states. Well, I'm apparently in love with the country because we just keep going in circles. But there's something really like we do a lot of driving from North Carolina down to Georgia, and I don't know about your traffic. I'm not like as friendly with you with Atlanta traffic quite as yet. So I'll go on the back roads and the country roads and everything. But to go the coastal, like go through Charleston, like you're saying, and go, oh my gosh, I've done the coast from North Carolina, from the Cape Hatteras, or am I getting the wrong thing here? All the way down through Florida. And it's
Love it.
insanely beautiful. I mean, you can see alligators from one end to the other, and that's my favorite thing. I'm into gators.
Oh,
And you have one of my favorite parks of all time in Georgia is the Okefenokee Swamp. And
That's a very cool place.
I
The
have to
black
go
water
every time.
with all the alligators. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, you were
Well-
talking about diversity of beaches, and that made me think of the Low Country in Charleston, in that area, which is so different. It's not necessarily beachy, but it's more the marsh. They also
Mhm.
have some Savannah and all that area. And I find that just beautiful as well.
Mm. I
Yeah,
do
see,
too.
You can
we have
walk
a
on
lot
it
of,
and
we have
kayak
a lot
on
of
it.
bayous here too, a lot of bayous. So if you're ever in Mississippi and you're into gators, you want to go to the Gator Ranch, because there literally is a place that's called the Gator Ranch, and you go out on an airboat and you can see them in their natural habitat. And then they have this whole big area where and I think some of them, and actually they might be gone by now, but the ones that are, they trap them and they bring them there rather than, people actually do hunt alligators here. There is a season for that. But, a lot of them get rescued and go to the Gator Ranch, and that's where they live. And tell you what, there's some big, big gators over there. And then the airboat is cool. It's very loud, but it's really cool. You can go out into the bayous and in the marshland in the swamps and see them and all other kinds of creatures.
I like it. I'm into it. I'm so into the swamps, like in the bayous and South Carolina, going down Georgia too. I mean, it's just, yeah, I think I need to live on a bayou or something. Like but it is part of the coastal culture, and the coastal
Right.
landscape is like the lagoons and the bayous, and that's what the South has. And you go up, like we're talking about Oregon coast, there's a community, I think it's Reedsport, I'm gonna say off the top of my head. I think so. It's kind of just above, Coos Bay. It's just above Coos Bay. And you go inland a little bit, so you've got the whole coast. Again, those beautiful trees, those rocky cliffs and everything you're talking about. You go inland and it's more marsh area and more meadow, and that's where you find elk. There's a whole elk viewing platform out there. And it's like this refuge. And I can live there too. You know,
Crazy to me. You have elk on the beach. That's so crazy.
you've
Yeah.
got to go. It's an
Why?
auric. Well, okay, the ultimate of animals on the beach was when we lived in South Africa, and we've seen ostrich on the beach. If you go up in the northern part of the Cape, you can see, some people have seen lions, and but there were the paternoster is the area we saw ostrich. You get penguins like in the Cape area, and you can see whales all in the same like place. And then they have canary bush with like these beautiful sand dunes, and they're full of canaries, these little
That's
teeny
wild.
birds. Then you got the Tsitsikamma forest, which is they call the garden route of South Africa. Then you can take a train. I think it's the blue train. I don't know if they changed the name, but you're going through proteas and sugar blossoms, all these protea fields, rugged cliffs like you're talking about. And they've got all these sugar birds that come in there like a little bit bigger than hummingbirds. I'm serious. And then they've got the lagoons, and you got forests on the other side with monkeys. Seriously, you
Wow.
got
They got
baboons on the
everything.
Cape of Good Hope that'll chase you. Like right at when you when you stand at the tip of Africa, the two oceans are meeting, and it's like the most dramatic experience. And then when you go back to your car, there's like a little snack shop, and then baboons. And if they open up the snack shop, you better tell them what you want. So it's like, oh, they used to get what's called chips, which is French fries, just a little thicker. No, I want a bag of chips. Then you throw it at you and slam the door because the little window, because the baboons will come out after you. And then you grab your food and you haul your butt to the car before the baboons get you
Oh
or
my
the
God.
food.
That's
It's
too
cool.
funny.
It's really cool. But if you guys ever get a chance to go to the tip of Africa, it's that whole area is I think that's what it is about Oregon and the South. Like it's two completely different um oceanscapes, I should say, coastal scapes, but like Africa has them merged in a
Wow.
interesting way on that garden route.
That would
So
be
you should
cool.
go. Yeah, you should go. Go do it. I think
Just
the
don't
flowers,
get chased by baboons.
no, or gators, but yeah, that's the other thing is, you know, the floral part of it too about coast. We forget about like just even like seagrass. I mean, doesn't that change for you, Jan, when you think about Oregon? There's little wildflowers and everything by the beach and ice plant, but
Right.
then there's seagrass and things like that in the South. And you might have seagrass too, right? Or oak grass.
Yeah, we have
Lisa?
actually right now it's pretty cool to watch the least tern. I don't know if you're up on birds
Oh,
or whatever, but the
yeah, yeah.
least tern is endangered. Well, we have breeding areas down here and on the beach, so they're protected. So, and everybody, believe it or not, even visitors that come in, they respect the barricaded off areas, and they make sand dunes, and that's where all the seagrass grows, and that's where the least terns breed. And they just had a feature on our news here the other day. They have like because obviously the college programs, there's a lot of marine life and birding and all of that just because of where we are. So they had some interns, some college kids down there, and they were tagging well, under the guidance, they were tagging these little babies of the least terns. Oh my God, they would fit in the like the palm of their hand. They were so cute, but they were explaining how they can, by doing this little teeny tiny little thing on their leg, that they can track all their migrations, that type of thing. The Pascagoula River Audubon Center does something similar with hummingbirds. Every year they have a
Right.
hummingbird fest, and they tag them, and that's cool. I've watched them. I've actually touched one of the hummingbirds, and I mean, they're this big, and you can feel their heartbeat. That's just the coolest thing. But they tag them, and then they study their migration, and you can tell if the same hummingbird comes back every year. It's really kind of cool, all the educational things. I mean, I remember being in high school, nobody ever told you could do all this cool stuff. So all these kids have such really neat things that they can delve into. It's really, and that's with the coastal areas, whether it's Mississippi or Oregon or wherever, there's there's specific things for each area that you can be a marine biologist, and then you can specialize in least terns or whatever, birds, whatever. But it's just really cool, all the opportunities that gives younger people.
The education aspect. For you, Jen, do you get out in any of the natural aspects of it when you travel to the coast?
Well, I love to kayak, so if there's an
Oh,
opportunity to do that, like through mangroves in Florida, or when I was in Puerto Rico, we got to go to the bioluminescent bay, and that was very cool.
Oh, I've heard about that.
Water, and we went at night, which is kayaking at night was really fun. Yeah, and I mean, like I mentioned, I love hiking along the coast. I'd love to be outdoors and anything like that, because I do love to walk on the beach, but it's also fun to do something a little bit different.
yeah,
But yeah, like
exactly.
Barron Gulf Shores, that wildlife refuge, you could walk along. It was kind of around a lagoon, and you could walk around. It was completely unspoiled, and we were the only people there, and it was really special.
I love that when you have that quiet nature time, and it's just, yeah. And then you can hear the actual birds. And we did a hike recently. Actually, no, it was a year ago now, I think. And it was up in the Appalachians and in the Pisco National Forest. And when you have that real quiet, I could not believe this. A swallowtail butterfly flew just above, like kind of stopped on my head for a second. I heard its wings. And then I'm like, okay, like, and I didn't have any bushwhackers, so this was a real deal. I think it was because their wings were slowing down, because it was like this little cold front moved through a little bit. But that was like, I was like, I just heard the wings of a butterfly. Like,
That's
when
cool.
does that happen?
Very
But that is like, to me, when you're in pristine nature, when you get to have those moments, because it's hard to find. It's really hard. And the beach, when you can find those spaces, that's a hard thing to do, because we only have so much coastline, you know what I mean? And, we want to put hotels and things, which makes sense, but, to find that pristine, quiet place is hard to do. So it's cool when you
There's
get
a
those
couple
moments.
wonderful places in Georgia. There's one called Cumberland Island, and it's only got one inn in it, and that's where John F. Kennedy Jr. got married, in that little church there, and they stayed in this one inn. And there's really not much else on the island, and only a few people can go over a day. You can go camp, but they keep it very limited. And you can go stay in this one inn, which I think maybe has like 6 rooms or something.
Wow.
So you ride around that island on a bike or something, because you can only get there by a ferry. You can't drive there. So there's no cars, there's the vans and the service vehicles for the inn. but you ride around or you go to the beach and there's literally nobody else there, which is amazing. And there's another place called Little St. Simon's Island, and it's off the coast of St. Simon's Island in Georgia. And again, you can only get there by boat. And it used to be a private hunting refuge. Well, a guy bought it because he was going to make pencils out of the trees, and then he found out the trees grew crooked, so you can't make pencils. So they turned it into a hunting place, and now it's a place. They've got lodges and little places you can stay. But again, it's only accessible by ferry, and you go out to the beach and you won't see another person on the beach. So there are still places like that. You have to seek them out, but they can be really magical.
Yeah, I agree. You have to really seek them out. And I think South Carolina has a lot of those islands where it's like limited, you know, that's it. You need to take a ferry over, and I think even like Cape Cod and some of those areas are like that a little bit. I'm not sure. Haven't done that
Cape
yet.
Cod's beautiful. I enjoy Cape Cod. Not the, as you said, not the Hyannisport and all that. That doesn't, but if you drive up and you go, I've stayed in like Wellfleet, which is kind of, it's below Provincetown, but above the Hyannisport. Wellfleet's a very nice area. It's very, I mean, it's not nearly as touristy as the other places. You can stay on the ocean side or the bay side. So if I go to Cape Cod, that's where I tend to gravitate to, is more on the northern Cape, but not quite as far as P-Town, but you know, down further where you still have access to both, but it's just a quieter area. It's just beautiful.
Does anybody else want some saltwater taffy? I just suddenly feel like we should have that now. I don't know, but I'm thinking that milkshake sounds really good.
Yeah, the milkshake does sound good.
I am. Now, do you have drive-through daiquiris like in Mississippi, or is that Louisiana and Florida only?
We have several daiquiri bars. So yeah, I mean, one of them actually is the local casino that I was talking about. Obviously, they don't have a hotel and a resort or anything like that. But what they do have is in downtown, they have a daiquiri bar, and the menu is, I can't even tell you how many different kinds. Anything you could imagine a daiquiri could be put in a daiquiri is there. And I've not been there, but I've heard it's very good. So.
I'm just saying, it's a cocktail, a beachy cocktail is always necessary. You know, it's a good
the umbrellas and the whole little.
Yeah.
Imagine the man that invented those drink umbrellas. He's a bajillionaire by now.
Oh yeah,
copyrighted it.
Lastly, I wanted to touch on, you wrote about the Cannery, the hotel, the Cannery Pier, I think it is in Astoria, Oregon. It was a cannery, I think it is, and that has gone through this huge, you know, remodel and everything. And we were there last year, and I want to go there. I've just seen it driving over that crazy bridge. Have you driven that bridge?
I did not drive over that bridge, but I could see it from my room. I mean, I literally could have jumped off my balcony into the water. I just thought but that was before it was renovated, so I don't know if that part has changed. But
I think they did some add-ons.
Amazing.
That bridge. No, I had to do it a few times. We were staying in Ilwaco, Washington. So you'd go over the bridge for groceries and then go back. And I just know, and there were elk out there by Astoria too. I found elk.
Really?
I find elk everywhere.
Wherever I go.
I think you're an elk magnet.
Cattle and elk. Yeah. No. Well, it has been fun, ladies. Thank you for so many good pointers for our listeners to plan their coastal adventure. And I also want to say, remember coastal, you were talking about fall. The coast is year round. Honestly, I think that's something, you know, we're talking about quieter places is, you know, after, you know, when school goes back in, hit the beaches, man. It's a nice quieter time and better on the wallet too. I think you can get some good deals in the fall and winter, and it's just a different experience, you know?
Well, and here in coastal Mississippi, it's also a lot cooler. So we have a lot of festivals, like September, it's still pretty warm, but from mid-September to the end of the year, there's a festival we love our festivals. And then of course, after the new year, you got Mardi Gras. So everybody and their brother has a Mardi Gras, whatever. So even though it's not maybe your beach area, there's still tons and stuff to do here, and it's cooler. It's not hell.
There you go. There you go. So, Jan, give everyone your website again for them to come and visit you. thetravel100.com. I got that right?
That's right. And 100 is 100.com.
That's 100. And also keep up with Lisa at writerlisa.com. And of course, for the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association, you can go to IFWTWA.org. If you're a travel writer or destination representative, you may want to check out their upcoming conference talking about the coast. They've got a cruise going from Vancouver to LA with the Discovery Princess, with Princess Cruises. So I think that's pretty cool to have a conference at sea. Just saying. I don't have either of you been on one of their conferences with IFWTWA?
No, I have
I
not.
don't
Their
remember.
their dates always seem to conflict with something else I got going. It's, I can't clone myself. I'd love to, but I would have loved to go on this one. But again, I have other
Yeah.
commitments that week. So
I will be
Well-
on it. And I'm very excited.
Oh, cool. Glad you're going. That's going to be
Yeah,
fun.
me
Are you going to
too.
do any of the extra press trips with that? Because they're beachy-fied.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go early to Vancouver, and then this wasn't through IFWTWA, but I think I'm going to go to Oceanside, California after the conference because I'd been talking to a woman there, and that's on the coast. So I'm excited about that.
Where we started our magazine, Oceanside,
Oh,
California.
really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Oceanside's awesome. So it's a beautiful pier. And if you walk
Yeah.
the pier, you've walked a mile. Awesome little colored little beach cabins on the coast. And I encourage you to go. Like Oceanside is just really done so much. It's so many changes over the years. It's beautiful. You've got Carlsbad to the south of it. So I encourage you to go there if you like, just you've got Highway 101. And that is awesome to drive all the way down like to Del Mar and those areas. Beautiful sunsets, a wonderful harbor, cute harbor to go out. And we used to have bonfires out there. I don't know if we were, I was in my 20s, but anyway, we won't tell anybody. But Oceanside is so much fun. The restaurants, there's a California Surf Museum that's really cool. A lot of history, a lot of museums. Yeah, you're gonna have a good time. There's tons. There's farmers
Excited.
markets. Yeah, no, yeah, you're gonna have a good time. A lot of garden areas, botanical gardens nearby, and things like that, and Encinitas to go to. So, yeah, Oceanside's awesome. You're gonna have a good time. Cool. All right. So everyone again, IFWTWA.org, and you can keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Thanks so much, ladies.
thank you.
Thank you. It's been great.